And I'm like, if you're making under six figures, the only thing I want you to care about is making revenue. Otherwise, you don't have a business, right? Like if you don't have revenue coming in, you're just keeping yourself busy.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. Welcome back for another episode of the No Labels, No Limits podcast, where we're on a mission to help individuals, teams, and organizations think outside the box, innovate, and move beyond perceived limitations, all to achieve their goals. So, and you know, we do this each week by sharing accomplished and inspiring guests. And today, our guest is no different. In fact, she's got some really cool, unique things about her. And we did a pre-chat, not recorded, so you don't get to hear it. But I learned some fun things about Nikki, not the least of which is she's done back-to-back interviews today, and you'll hear it. She's got high energy. I totally dig that. So we're going to be speaking with Nikki Nash. So let me give you her full name. And she is a seasoned marketer with a knack for helping businesses thrive in like this digital landscape. And she does it by attracting and retaining clients online. You know, her own journey is a testament to resilience, though, having transitioned from assisting Fortune 100 companies and tech startups in building these big, robust brands to become a best-selling author and podcast host. Sarah, girl, you've been talking all day. What makes Nikki's insights invaluable, though, to our listeners is her deep understanding of the entrepreneurial roller coaster. So I know the listeners, whether you're an entrepreneur or a leader in another organization, can get that up-down roller coaster piece. And she's been through the highs and lows from a bank account fluctuating between $50,000 and $100 as an entrepreneur. And her experience have actually armed her with the wisdom to navigate the revenue roller coaster and overcome those feelings of shame. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know those feelings, like when you think you should be somewhere and you're not there. Anyway, she won't just share her journey, but we're going to hear some information about a really practical framework that she has for consistent action in marketing and sales, and that's a lifeline for entrepreneurs. So here's a surprising tidbit, and I'm going to ask her about this. She once aspired to be an actress, but let mindset hurdles take a stand in her way. So if you ever spot her strolling and talking animatedly, she's not on a call. She's just external processor hashing out her brilliant ideas. So with that, let me formally welcome Nikki to the podcast. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Yeah, as you can tell, I've been talking, so I'm like, slow down, girl. You're tripping over your words. But I'm great, and I've been looking forward to your interview. I'm curious what you will have to share with us. And just in the pre-chat, you know, where we're checking all the tech and stuff and catching up, I just love your vibe. It's so genuine and real.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to go backwards from the introduction. And, you know, you talk about you had this journey from an aspiring actress to a marketing expert. Just take us back to a pivotal moment when you realized that your path was shifting towards marketing and away from acting, and what triggered that transformation.
Yeah, I would love to say that it was a clear journey. But in high school, was in theater. I was in plays. I actually started doing acting in middle school. Though my mom would probably say I was a little bit of a character before then, but I love this idea of being able to play different roles and share other people's stories. And typically even when I watch a movie, I almost feel like I'm the character that I'm watching. I'll start crying. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm seeing my dad for the first time. And it's like, no, my dad's been in my life my entire life. But in this instance, I'm feeling like this character. And so I've always had that ability to put myself in somebody else's shoes, and really thought I was going to be an actress, but honestly had a lot of fears around being enough, being good enough, being skinny enough, being pretty enough, being just enough in general to be an actress. And so while I did a lot of the work on paper, and I would look up auditions, and I'm from New Jersey, so New York was just a train ride away. And I would look up auditions and I would make connections with people who were doing it, but I never actually went for it. And so when I got to college, I thought I was going to be a journalist because that's, somewhat adjacent. I was going to be an on-air journalist, and again, had these enoughness challenges. And so in pursuit of still going after journalism, I did this summer program at NYU. And I think they still have it, but it was called, at least at the time, the Summer Publishing Institute. And it walked you through all elements of the publishing industry, both the business side, so marketing, sales, like how do you actually bring either a magazine or a book or anything like to life, as well as the editorial side and the journalists and the writers and the editors. And I fell in love with the marketing and sales people. And I'm like, I'm going to be one of those. And so that's how I ended up in marketing. I ended up getting a gig at InStyle magazine through meeting the publisher of the magazine at the time, and took a job there. And that led me down a path of working at from InStyle to Travel and Leisure to working at an ad agency, and then going client side and working for Intel, and a whole bunch of stuff led me down this path where I ended up in marketing, ended up working for tech startups, and created a side hustle teaching entrepreneurs marketing. And next thing I knew, that side hustle became an actual business. And so that's kind of the pathway. But bringing it full circle, I still feel like every day I'm constantly creating videos. I'm creating my own content. So in my own mind, I'm like an actress in my own right, but I'm just playing myself all day, every day.
Well, and you're telling stories. I mean, I'm looking through the thread that you're sharing. I'm thinking one constant throughout all of that is you're telling a story, whether it's your story, someone else's story from a different angle. And I relate to the highly empathic part where you can feel the character's angst. And you're in it and you're crying. I get called out on that. It's like, it's just a show. I'm going, I can feel it. I don't know. No, it's intense. So I think that's pretty slick. And I have a question though. How did you move? I mean, because that's very brave work that you've been doing, right? And I can tell you there are folks who would think, oh, I would just stay where I was, even though I was uncomfortable. I could keep going like that. But you kept putting yourself out there, even with imposter syndrome. I mean, none of the stuff you said you did after that feels any less visible, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're doing the marketing, the school. So what was there? Did you have a little click in your head? Like, what happened for you there?
Yeah. So I've always been a kid that liked personal development. So if anybody remembers Borders books, it was basically like Barnes and Noble. I think in my town we had both Barnes and Nobles and Borders. Yeah. In fact, now the Barnes and Nobles took over the space of where Borders used to be in my town in New Jersey. But I spent time in pretty much 3 areas inside that bookstore. It was the personal development section. It was the CD section, because there were CDs back then for people that know what a CD is, right? I used to have cassette tapes too, but it was the CD section. And then the magazine section. We used to have magazines, right? Like I joked.
I know, I missed that. I missed Borders. I liked it. It felt very cozy and homey, and it had all that great stuff in it.
Exactly. And so I would read these books, but I think the biggest shift is that when I used to read personal development books, I was always coming from a place of trying to fix myself, like something was wrong with me and I was trying to fix it. And somewhere along the way, as I continued to just put myself out there, I started realizing that I'm not really trying to fix myself with personal development stuff. I'm trying to be the next best version of myself, which is just like a different perspective shift. And so, because it's self-improvement, not self-repair or self-fixing, right?
Absolutely.
In doing that and in constantly just you just need a little bit more confidence than you have lack of confidence in certain areas to do something. And so I don't know that I was ever like, yeah, I'm going to crush it and like do this thing. It was more of like, you know what, like I'm going to give this a try. And I kind of have enough confidence to give it a try. So I remember the first time I was working at Intel and they sent me to speak on stage to a bunch of, I think, college students, probably because I was the youngest person on the team, quite frankly. They're like, they'll relate to you, right? That's probably what happened. I was the youngest on the team by probably like 12 years. And so that really got me into speaking. And I wouldn't say that I was, oh yeah, I felt confident speaking all the time, but I just felt confident enough to show up and get on stage, and then got enough positive feedback to do it again, and then felt comfortable enough to do it again. And then it's like, oh, I can do this all the time. And the same thing happened from being a guest on a podcast or speaking on video. It's like, you just need enough courage to like essentially force yourself to do it. And then after you do it over and over again, it becomes easier. You become more confident in it. And so that's really kind of how I got there or got here.
Yeah, well, that's pretty profound. And it also shows how you really can help the entrepreneurs you work with overcome their own kind of like pushback, right? It's like, oh, that's scary. Everything's scary till you've done it at least once.
Yes.
I mean, it can be mortifying. And then you go, oh, I'd live through it. And then you're a little bit braver because you're going, I'm standing on the other side of it. But I think one of the important things you said was you reframed how you thought about it. So it wasn't self-development for repair, but for your next level self coming out, which is a pull in itself. You're like, oh, now I wonder what I can do next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm curious, though, if you were to go back to yourself in high school when you're acting, or even in middle school, would you give yourself any kind of a heads up or tip about what's coming down the road that might have made that transition easier? Or what tip would you give yourself?
So it's funny, like I watch, just a little insight into me. I'm single, and on dating app, I'm dating or going on dating apps and going on dates. And this guy, I promise I'm answering your question and getting somewhere.
I'm trusting you.
You trust me. This guy said he was nerd adjacent. So he's like, I'm not a nerd, I'm nerd adjacent. And I resonated with that so much because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm nerd adjacent, and I'm about to let my nerd flag fly right now. And so I watch a lot of like superhero stuff, or like sci-fi stuff, or things that would have timelines. So, or time travel. So when you said, what would you tell yourself? I'm like, oh, if I go back and tell myself something, I might not end up in the same place, and it might cause doom. So like,
you'll change the time continuum.
Exactly. I'm changing.
I get it. I do. I get it.
So I'm like, I'm like, I'm not sure that I would actually say it, but if I could say something to myself and not dramatically cause chaos in life, I would probably just tell myself, like, you're beautiful, you're not fat, and like amazing things are coming for you. Because I didn't realize until very recently that I thought I was fat my entire life, even when I was like real thin. And I'm just like, like imagine what I would have accomplished if I just didn't see myself in such a negative light, right? Yeah. And so who knows, I probably would have ended up marketing or being an actress or doing other stuff if I didn't see myself that way. But honestly, I would tell myself that just to alleviate the torment that I probably put myself and my friends through, thinking I was fat my whole life.
It's not funny like a funny joke funny. It's funny in a peculiar sense, because I think that's very common to women. I remember thinking that, like, when I was in high school, I'm thinking, oh man, you're so fat. And I'm going, now as an adult, I'm about the same height. And I thought that was like a really healthy weight, really healthy. And I'm going, where did all that stuff come from? Right. And this would be way before all the social media stuff. Right. So I think about the question I have for you around that is, when you're working with entrepreneurs, and particularly female entrepreneurs, how often does that kind of come up in the thinking process?
Yeah, I think what specifically comes up, usually it's not oh my gosh, I think I'm fat, but there's a lot of things that come up around visibility. And so I'll hear people say like, oh, I don't want to be on video, or can I do this without anybody knowing that it's me, right? Like, can I build this business without anybody ever seeing me or hearing me or anything? And it's like, are there ways to do that? Sure. but are you doing it because of a self-worth thing or because it's the right thing to do for your business? And I like to tell people, I'm like, their response, because I have a really, I like to joke that my brain is really smart. Like the part of my brain that tries to rationalize stuff so that I don't do it, it's like, it's pretty smart. And it'll say some crazy stuff, but convince me it's true because they'll find a logical pathway to it. So some people will be like, oh, well, I don't want to be visible or I don't want to be all on the camera and stuff because I don't want it to be about me. It's not about me. And I'm like, you're right. It's not about you at all. But you not wanting to be visible and on camera is you making it about you. Like you literally just made it about yourself, as opposed to saying, hey, I can be brave and show up and speak my truth or say what I need to say to my audience so that they hear it and they have a person that they can connect and resonate with, so that they are maybe able to take the actions they need to take in their life. And I'm like, that's making it about them. And the easiest way for me to have gotten over that, I used to do like motivational Facebook lives or marketing tips while I just left the gym. So I'd literally be like looking a hot mess. And this was before there were filters and stuff on like all the platforms. It was just, this is what I look like without any makeup on, sweating at the gym, probably with pit stains. And I'm just like, hey guys, I was just working out, but I had a great idea or this tip for you. And so I feel like if you can show up, and this is what I tell folks, I'm like, if you can show up in a way that you probably would never want a person that you want to date to see you until they're already committed. If you can show up online like that, like you can do anything.
That's a great example, a super great example. Picture the folks you've worked with, so grab one of them or combine two in your head. Tell me a little bit about like how you work with them and some of the amazing things that you've seen them do that they didn't think they could do when they first started out.
Okay. So I'm thinking of a person, and this particular person has a business that they do kind of book coaching, but primarily ghostwriting. So they'll do ghostwriting, and they'll also, for folks that maybe aren't ready for a ghostwriter, they'll coach them through writing the book themselves. And when I met her, she had like so many offers, like way too many offers. I'm literally like looking at her page and she's like, these are all the things I offer. And I was overwhelmed by her offering. She also had just had fairly recently a second child, and was very clear that she didn't have the same amount of hours to work. She literally had 20 hours a week to work in her business. And the challenge, because a lot of what she did was ghostwriting, she needed time to actually write. It's not like she had to actually deliver what she was doing, and her delivery was a lot more than people who just have a coaching business, where like you can probably get away with, an hour per client per week at most. Typically, she's like, I got to give these clients a lot of hours a week in terms of just writing for them. Right. So she had very limited time. And so we sat down, and the first few things we did was get her really clear on what she wanted her business to look like how much she wanted to bring in revenue, what that revenue was going to go for. And then we sat down and talked about what hours she really had and what her ideal schedule was and when she could really work. Because she's like, I want to be able to pick up my child from daycare or from school or things like that. And so map that out. And then we went, okay, now knowing how much time you have and knowing how much money you'd like to make, let's just do some reverse engineering here. And so what we did was cut 90% of her offers out. I think it might have been 99% of her offers. I'm like, you don't need to be delivering all this stuff. What's the one thing that you are phenomenally good at that you can do in your sleep, right? And then she actually had someone on her team that could do some of the things that she wanted to offer but didn't want to do. So I'm like, if you want to keep some of these offers, then literally have the other person do it and then just upcharge it a little bit. And then you're bringing in essentially income that you don't have to deliver. You're just doing the sales calls and the marketing and that stuff. So we simplified her offers, increased the price point, came up with a very simple marketing plan and sales plan. And then we're like, okay, now go. We streamlined everything and literally mapped out her schedule. This is the marketing stuff you're going to do in these hours. And this is the hours you have to write for other folks. And this is the hours you have to do for that. And she left. It was just, that was a condensed, time together. We did a full day together condensed. And she walked away, and within 4 weeks, she was already messaging how much money she made. It was like 4x her investment. Within 6 weeks, she was like, and not only have I made more money, I have all these clients lined up for like a month from now and then 2 months from now. But she messaged, oh my gosh, I don't know where my phone is, but I literally got a message from her yesterday about how she's going to far exceed what her target was initially. And I'm literally like, yeah, it came down to simplifying. It really what it comes down to from a marketing perspective and a business growth perspective is being really clear on the target, being clear on what your capacity is, and then building a marketing and sales plan and an offering suite that's in alignment with the target and your capacity. I think so often people are like, oh, I want to make all this money, but I have only this amount of time to do it. And then they create essentially a marketing and strategy and a sales strategy and an offer suite that would make it impossible for them to hit that target in that time. Or they could hit that target in that time, but they would need, or really they can't, like they can hit that target, but they don't have the capacity to do it. They'd essentially need to see like 1,000 clients. Like, do you have time to see 1,000 clients one-on-one? Probably not. Do you have the audience size to get 1,000 clients in a group program? Probably not. Do you have the money for the ad spend that you would need to get the clients? Probably not. So then some variable needs to change. Either you need to increase your price point, or do something else. So it's really just kind of playing that game with folks, which I find a lot of fun.
Do folks tend to resist that sense of needing to simplify, think they have to do it all? Because honestly, we're sold a bill of goods that we have to do it all, right?
It depends on the client, but I would say that, yes, there are tons of people that resist it. And there are tons of people that will make a really strong case for them having to do things. And it's not even just like doing it all yourself, because there were parts of my business where I did 99% of it myself, but I focused on just the few things that actually made money. I think so often people are like, I speak to clients all the time, or prospective clients, and they fight for doing all these things that have no impact on their revenue. And I'm like, if you're making under 6 figures, the only thing I want you to care about is making revenue. Otherwise, you don't have a business, right? Like if you don't have revenue coming in, you're just keeping yourself busy, essentially. So like you need revenue generating activities, and you trying to tell me how you need to hire this person to do that, and you need to do this other thing that aren't revenue generating. I'm not going to let you fight for doing that. And if I have bumped up against folks that have found me triggering at first, which is sometimes hilarious to me, because I'm like the bubbliest person on the planet, but I will speak to you like the person I know you are, not the person that's fighting and kicking and screaming to do something stupid. Like I will not support that. So I think a lot of people fight for complication, but I think it's because our brains are crafty creatures and convince people that complication is the way to go, but you can't scale complicated.
Hey there, everybody. I want to take just a minute out of this episode of the No Labels, No Limits podcast to tell you that we are officially opening the Sandbox membership in September. So if you're not already on our mailing list, please click the link below to either sign up for the membership or get on the waiting list for the membership. And if you click the link, you'll find more information about what's included, what our plans are, and better yet, you'll be on early enough to help decide what is most important to you to experience in the first 3 to 6 months of the membership. So don't wait. Click the link below and join us in the Sandbox, where fun happens. We get to do a little R&R, little learning, support one another, and really grow and expand in ourselves, in our lives, and impact the world in a profound way. So come on over, join us.
So, and I also find like when you, in your role, when you do that with someone, for me, when I've done that as recently as earlier this week, different situation, but it was like almost a relief. I heard the whole rationale, like this is what we could do, this is why it's been proposed, and this is what this group thinks we should do. But I left it with telling this decision-making body that, which I thought was funny, there says, I'm going to call, and if Sarah doesn't think this is a good strategic direction, because I've worked with them for a long time, I think we will say no. And I had gotten the information ahead of time, right? I knew what they were looking at. I said, please send me something I can read before we talk. And I'm seeing red flags all over this thing. I'm going, oh my gosh, right? Could they do it? Yes. Should they do it? No. But I'm thinking, and I would love to help you, but I'm not doing this work either because the red flags, right, all the way along for just the reasons you're talking about. Is it can I add value? Is it going to be useful? Not even on the revenue piece because I know I'd be paid, but like I just can't do that work in the world if it's not going to really be useful. So anyway, I didn't have to say that. I said, now what have you guys already thought about it? They've thought through all of this. They just needed someone's permission to say bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to take you off. They have this other initiative. It's in like they're 15, 18 months. It has so much promise, Nikki. And I said, remember 10 years ago when you were starting this thing and you weren't sure, but it had all this promise. Look where you are. Oh, yeah. I says, don't let that person and their little carrot of what you could be doing take you off track. But there was like this. Oh, yeah, that's great. So I hear what you're saying to someone. I can imagine if you're telling me that and you're giving me pushback going, I'm not going to let you fight for doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
I want to tell you listeners, that's a great person to have in your corner because they're not buying your BS, basically. It's like Nikki's got the chops. She's done the work. She knows all of that. And that's the value of having a coach or a consultant in your corner to help you go, let's think about this clearly.
Yeah. And I am always going to fight for what a client, whether they're working with me from a coaching perspective or from a consulting perspective, it's like, I'm going to fight for what you said you wanted initially and to keep you on track. Because I know like, I have a business partner in my consulting and I am highly visionary and she's highly, she's the the integrator, like highly COO, like I would be CEO.
She gets it done.
She gets it done. And so it's so funny because she usually, when we're dealing with visionaries, she's like, Nikki, you just deal with them because she's like, you're a visionary, but you're like a visionary that gets it. Like she's like, you're one that won't keep going off track or like have everybody rowing the boat in a different direction. I'm like, yeah, it's like, I can speak the language, but I'm like, I made a couple of mistakes at the beginning and I didn't need to learn the lesson over and over and over again.
Once was enough.
Once was enough, and others are either like glutton for punishment or they just didn't learn the lesson the first time. But they're like, let's change everything again. And I'm literally like, I am shocked that your entire team hasn't quit yet because you've changed the direction of this ship 10 times in 10 days. Like it's a little much. Like,
well, maybe they're looking for the lifeboats before they jump. But I do want to, you brought up something and both in our pre-talk, but kind of are heading in that direction now that I want to dial in on, and that is revenue, right? The importance of it, importance of working towards that goal, or you're no longer going to be in business, right? So let's talk a little bit about why you think it's so important about diversifying revenue and how you approach that.
Yeah. So it's so funny because I think there's a lot of messaging out there towards business owners and entrepreneurs and even employees around what the wealthy do. And it'll be like, wealthy people have multiple income streams and, wealthy people do this, right? Like they delegate, right? And so there's all these videos and I always laugh because I will have people that are they could be doing under $100,000 in business. They could be doing $40 million in business. And they're like, let's come up with all these different offers to deliver to people. And I'm like, why are you creating more complexity in your business? And what I find, and I'm in some organizations that will teach about how do you create generational wealth and things like that. And where my philosophy has changed as an entrepreneur was that at the beginning, I thought all of my revenue and all of my money had to come from inside my business. And what I learned is that no, like if my business can fund my lifestyle and then plus some to invest in other opportunities so that my money is making money, that's a whole different ballgame. And so inside my business, one of the things that I've done is I've looked at how can I carve out money to invest in real estate or in other businesses or something that is appreciating asset that is also generating positive cash flow. So that's one. The other is like, how can I make money without that, like, keeps coming in without me having to do much? And that's when I got fascinated with affiliate marketing. And so with affiliate marketing, essentially it's like telling people about, I mean, influencers do this all the time. They're like, hey, look at this shirt I just bought, or here's my living room and all the furniture in it. And then they post the links to what they purchased and how they've used stuff. And then they get a commission off of anybody who purchases from their links. Well, you can do the same thing inside your business. Are there email systems that you use? Are there certain things that you use to become successful as a business owner? You can use affiliates for that. Or on the flip side, what I've started doing with a number of clients and in my own business is, why not have the people that are already in the program that freaking love it, promote it and give them an affiliate link, and they get commission for promoting it. Because the best people to promote stuff is probably not going to be you anyway, right? It's going to be people who have experienced it and can share their own story. And so I started not only doing affiliate marketing as a revenue stream, that's what I've done inside my business instead of creating a ton of products. But I've also created an accelerator that is really designed to help people that are not quite at that beyond six-figure mark inside their business. Which I've found a statistic that is, I knew was probably like, I had a gist that this was around that number, but it's still alarming. That is 88.1% of female-owned businesses generate under $100,000. And it's like around 80, it's still like 80 something percent. I think it's like 80.7 or something percent of female-owned businesses generate under $50,000. So there's really like a 7% delta that's doing between $50,000 and $100,000 in the first place.
I didn't know it was, I knew there was that number towards the $100,000, but I didn't realize how much of that was below the 50.
Yes, it's like alarmingly large. And so I'm sitting here like, I want to help more women get out of that stage, because that's when you really feel like you have a business that you can do something with. And that's just really the beginning. Like, to me, the getting past the six-figure mark is just, hopefully you've created some baseline revenue, and then you're trying to multiply that to like have a growth spurt. And then from there, you're trying to actually grow the business. And then after that, you're probably trying to scale. So like, you're not scaling until you're in probably the millions of dollars. And there's a bunch of stages to get there. But if I can get more women-owned businesses out of the first stage, then they can keep going. And so I found that using affiliates to bring people into the accelerator has been really fun for me, because I think so often people are like, I need to diversify my income. And I'm like, do you need to diversify it inside your business? Or could you just kind of have everything work smarter for you? So can I have things that I'm already using that I'm teaching people how to use inside my programs? Can I get commission off of that? Can I buy, investment properties that cash flow and that appreciate in value? Again, I don't have to manage that the same as I would my clients one-on-one. So instead of creating all these products inside, it's like, how can you, one, invest in other things to diversify your income? And two, how can you make money off of things you never have to deliver upon? That's another way to diversify your income.
Well, because there's only so many hours in a day, right? Yeah. And you can add value. I mean, if you have an affiliate link, and I think about that too, because I have affiliate links. I'm going to own it. I'm not good at promoting them, right? But I realize, I'm thinking, okay, I've been with the same accounting firm, and they're online, and they're in Canada, they work nationally for 5 years. And they have saved I can't tell you how much time they've saved for me. And they're great, right? And I'm thinking, I have an affiliate link. Why don't I use it? Because I know small businesses want to know who does your taxes, right? And I have an accountant who does because I can talk to him and go, hey, what's this about? And get advice from him at that end. But the books are done. I just have to review them, right? Oh, I used to spend hours doing that. So there's an example. So I think about those things, and it's a missed opportunity. I'm going to own that on my part, right? But there are a number of examples of that, and people whose services I use who I would recommend, Absolutely. With total confidence, I would recommend them because they show up that way. So when you recommend that to folks, where do they start with that? If you have an affiliate program, how is that managed on the back end, Nikki? Or are you manually checking all this stuff, or do you have a software you use?
I do. I have a software I use, and I'm an affiliate for it because I'm like so meta.
Well, I like it. You're a very strategic thinker. So
Oh yeah.
share about the software, because this was a conversation that came up this week for me, saying, what's the update on all that stuff for managing that now? So what is the update?
I use a software called ThriveCart, and I use it in my business in other ways. But the reason why I loved it so much is that they process payments, so they integrate with Stripe, and you can create like sales pages, checkouts, all that stuff. They've added on things where you can have a portal for online courses. Like they keep growing and expanding. But what I loved about them when I signed up, and I think this is still true to this day, is that they started with a lifetime access for one payment. So like I paid once, and then I have lifetime access to what they deliver. And then if they add like a new product, then I can buy that new product. But so I'm pretty sure that like I've probably made more from ThriveCart than I paid them. But then they've made off of me, promoting them. But what they do is literally if I create a product inside, like I have this product, like I have the accelerator, it'll say, okay, do you want to have affiliates for this? And I click yes. And then it's like, what do you want the payout to be? And then it automatically creates the unique links. They literally have a portal that like if you were an affiliate, you could see how many people clicked on the link, what the payout is. And then you can also see like if you want to offer a bonus for people that just buy from you, you have a place where you can like, hey, here's bonus stuff that you're giving people who sign up through your link. And so it's just really simple, easy, cool. And
it sounds streamlined.
Like it. Yeah, it's very streamlined. I'm always looking for software that makes my life significantly easier because even when like you start hiring people at the beginning, it's like I hire people, but guess who's training those people? I am. And if I don't freaking understand how it works, how the heck am I going to teach somebody else how it works? So I'm like, it has to be something easy and that I understand.
Oh, I totally get you. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were doing something, our team, and I did my best shot at doing my piece of it. And so in the most courteous way, I was told, why don't you just send us a Word doc with what you want? We'll get it done for you. I said, I know, I just tried to save you time, but honest to God, is there any software that's more intuitive than this? Not really. And I'm thinking, well, that sucks. I'm not doing it, right? I'm out. It's on you guys. For that reason, I'm thinking, why does it have to be this? I mean, it doesn't even have an intuitive user interface. But anyway, the folks who know it have gotten past that frustration part. I'm not one of them. So I like anything that is super simple, like you're describing that.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about the accelerator because we've referred to it, but what is it?
Yeah. So just going back to the statistic I shared before about how like 88.1%, I really like the 0.1 for some reason. I'm like, it's not just 88%, it's 88.1% of female-owned businesses are doing under 100K. And so one of the things that I'm always doing with business owners is understanding what stage of business they're in, because I believe that you could be doing things that are good for business in general, but in the wrong order. And so if you're in stage 1 and you're doing stuff that you really don't need to focus on until stage 3, it's actually not going to move your business further, faster. It's going to slow you down. And so the accelerator is specifically—
Give me an example of what that might look like for people listening. Like what's a stage 1 example and a stage 3 example?
Okay, so a stage 1 example would really be around really all I think people need to focus on is revenue generating stuff. So it's marketing, it's sales, and it's delivering an amazing client experience so that you can ask people to renew or refer or both, right? Like that's it. It's very simple. What ends in stage 3, you're probably are doing more complex automation or systems or like bringing on more team, and you need like SOP, standard operating procedures. When you get so used to acronyms, you're like, what does the acronym even stand for? So like you're like doing more like how you're getting ready to scale. Your team is getting a little bit bigger, things like that. And so I have
your systems together. Yeah.
Yeah, getting systems together. And you start doing more systemized stuff in stage 2, but not at the level that you do in stage 3. And so I'll have some people like, oh, I just bought this course on how to create standard operating procedures or how to scale my business. And I'm like, what are you scaling? You don't have anything to scale. To me, you can't scale until you have something that is proven to work. And then then you can, and it's worked so much for you that you have a business and you have a lot of revenue coming in. And to me, for most businesses, you're past $1 million before you're even thinking about truly scaling. You might be pre-scale and doing things that are kind of scale-ish, but you shouldn't be scaling. And if you're in stage 1, I don't even want you to think about anything, multiplying anything. I want you to get people to buy the thing that you're selling and get really, really good at it. And I don't want to hear you talk about paid ads. I don't want to hear you talk about systems and structures. I don't want to hear you talking about how you only want to work 5 hours a week, because what? 5 hours? You don't even know what works inside your business. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox.
I love it. No.
I feel so passionately about it.
Oh, I love it. So keep going. Now, I didn't want you to take you off track of the accelerator, but I know how my brain thinks, and I'm not the only one that's like, but I'm not sure what's in which stage. So thank you for clarifying the distinction between a couple of them.
Yeah. So stage 1, it's really just like getting really clear on what you offer, getting really clear on how you message that and position that in the marketplace, getting really clear on who buys it. Like, oh, no brainer. They're like, yep, I'm in. I have that problem, or I want that solution, or I have that dream. You're giving it to me. It's great. And then get really good at marketing it and really great at selling it. And so the accelerator is literally just, we're focusing on what you're selling, who you're selling it to, how you're speaking about what you're selling in a way that actually works for your business, how you're going to market it based off of what you uniquely are great at and the capacity and skills you have within your business, whether it's you alone or you and 1 or 2 other people. And then we're really focusing on increasing sales and getting consistent revenue. And so I consider you have successfully graduated from the accelerator when you're doing $10,000 a month consistently for at least 3 months in a row, is when you're like, okay, you've graduated. But really, I want you to keep tracking that for at least a year, because my goal is that if you have revenue that, goes up and down, you're on that revenue roller coaster. I want your low months to be $10,000. I would love for your high months to be beyond that, but I want your low months to be $10,000 or more, so that you are like, okay, I at least know every single month I'm bringing in at least $10,000. And if I have a greater month than that, I may be able to do a little bit of something extra. But don't do that until you know that like you've been able to consistently bring in a certain amount of revenue.
Oh, I love it. And it's so concrete, right? How long is the accelerator program? If I say someone hops in, how much are they hanging out with you?
Yeah. So what I do is, and I want people to move as quickly as possible. So the accelerator, what it comes with is it comes with a curriculum, and then it comes with, I do 2 group kind of entire community coaching calls a month. And then there's a community, and the community, it's like, you can ask questions to each other. I like to over deliver. So I'll, based off of what the community is struggling with, we'll go in and like do a video on something, because it's like everybody seems to have this question, so let me talk about it. So I'll do that. Now the container is set up so that you will have access to the curriculum for life, and as long as like I have the content up and like as long as the accelerator exists. So I don't want to say your life, because like, what if you're younger than me and then I die, and then like, so
you're not putting it in a trust, the accelerator.
Right. And then nobody wants to keep it running, right? So as long as the accelerator exists, you have access to the curriculum, and then you have access to the coaching calls twice a month and the community for a year. So I do bonus, like you get that for a year. My goal is for people to kind of set a target as to how quickly they want to hit that milestone of consistent 10K months. It depending on a number of things, primarily people's mindset, confidence, belief systems. Like you can probably get there. Like some people on the low end will do it in 4 months. Some people on the high end might need 18 months. So like I'm there for you to kind of keep moving and keep doing it. But the frameworks and the principles are the same, which is you're going to create your marketing plan. which I'll help people do at scale. So I have a framework, and you'll be able to ask questions, but you create your marketing plan, and then you test and validate that plan over and over and over again, tweaking it slightly. And I have people fill out things to track where they're at and how they're doing, so that when you do ask a question, I know where you're at, so I can answer it based off of where you're actually at, as opposed to just generically answer the question. So, but essentially the program is simple from the standpoint of we're going to create your marketing plan. You're going to be clear on who you're marketing to, how you're messaging it, all that jazz. And then you're literally doing variations of the same thing over and over and over again for probably a year until it works, making small adjustments along the way.
Yeah, incremental improvements always, right? And it goes back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation about the brave piece getting out there, is you just have to be push yourself a little further than you're comfortable. And
exactly.
You learn something, you're going, that pretty much worked pretty good. I need to keep it, or didn't work the way I thought. Let's switch it up a bit. But you're not changing your whole plan. You're not throwing it out.
Exactly.
It's like, that's so cool. It's like, let's have a new plan. No, let's diagnose and try something different, heading in that direction. I love how specific you are on all of that, Nikki. So we talked about diversifying revenue. I love that conversation and your accelerator offer. Let's talk about your book before we wrap this up. And I have your book, and I have a different question for you too. But you wrote Market Your Genius. Give us a high level of that, and that if you were to distill one key point from that you'd want our listeners to take away, so that then they're curious enough and go get the book, what would that be?
Yeah. So the book at the highest level is really for people who have an expertise or experience that they want to turn into a business. So whether they are a consultant, a coach, an online course creator, a ghostwriter, a photographer, right? There's a number of different industries, but it's like you are creating a service-based business and you want to learn how to acquire more clients, or if you're just getting started, how the heck to start acquiring your first clients, right? So it's how do you get more clients, and then how do you retain those clients, and then how do you do it in a way that's in alignment with your capacity? That's what's in the book. In fact, the accelerator is based off of, it's what I do. And so I put all of that in a book, and the accelerator just gives you much more specific support around how to do it for yourself. So if you are like, hey, accelerator sounds cool, but I'm not ready for that type of container yet, I would definitely get the book, because it'll have you start thinking the way you need to think to be successful in building a profitable business. Yeah.
And the thing I like that you have the book as I would say like a primer, right? Like, here's the playground you're going to be in, and this is what you need to know about it. But there is that magic of going, okay, I'm committing, and I'm going to have people around me who, they're not judging me, but they know what I've said I'm going to do, and I can ask questions, no harm, no foul, and get help.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard as an entrepreneur sometimes to say, oh, I need help. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. And yet it's so great, because there's always someone who knows more than you who says, oh, could I help you with that? I have a thought about that, and you're there. So that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, my business really took off even before I had a business partner and stuff like that. When I stopped trying to feel like I had to know everything myself and started leaning on community, even if I was still there were points where I was still the one-man shop, but I at least had folks that I could lean on and provide guidance, and it felt like I wasn't doing it alone. And so there's a lot to be said for having community, having a mentor that goes beyond what you can do just trying to put the weight of everything on your own shoulders.
Well, and I know that I'm going to attribute this quote to the wrong person, so I'm not going to attribute it. But basically, it's like the thinking that got you where you are now isn't going to get you out of it, right? We need other input for us. And sometimes it's just that fresh perspective sometime when someone says, well, I'm curious. I wonder what would happen if, or have you ever considered this? It can be just those little nuggets and you don't think anymore about it. And then you wake up one morning and go, wow, I have this idea. And if you can go back, it's sprung from there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Okay, on the podcast, I like to ask our guests if they have listened to a previous episode or two of this podcast, and if so, which episode, which guest, and what was one of your takeaways? Because I'll keep them in the show, but I like to cut it out and also send it to the guests so they know they're getting props.
Oh, well, this is a shout out to Brad Yates. Shout out, Brad. His episode released in December. I really wish I wrote down the episode number, but it was definitely like I'm going to say 373. I could be really wrong about that, but
I think it's 330. You're close. I think it's a 337 perhaps. Anyway, the end of December.
Numbers, wrong order.
We'll put the right link in the show notes for folks. But what did you take away from Brad?
Yeah. So one of the things, and I'm going to condense the story, but I historically have not had a gratitude practice in my business. And I think sometime at the end of last year to the beginning of this year, I started just realizing how grateful I am for just what's happened in my life and for whether people believe in God or the universe or themselves, like whatever. But I'm just so grateful for what has come into my life. And what I realized is that I didn't always have like the language or like what to say to do a practice. And that's part of why I didn't have a gratitude practice, is because I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Like, I'm grateful, cool. Like, it didn't feel real. And so Brad in the episode has this quote where he's like, one of the things I say is I'm grateful for the lessons that are coming my way. And I'm just like, oh, that's something that I really would like to say and started saying in my marketing practice, because honestly, people want to know like the strategy or the things that's going to work. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work until I'm looking in the real room mirror. You're really just going to get some knowledge. And so what I've now adopted and started saying to clients is, we're just going to be grateful for the lessons that are coming our way, because we don't know what's coming our way, but it's going to provide us with something that's going to bring us to the next step and to the next stage. And so I appreciated it for myself personally, for having a gratitude practice. But then I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much magic here. And when I'm working with clients, to give Brad a shout out and say, hey, I learned this from Brad Yates, and here's how I want you to approach and think about marketing. And it really helps people not give up, because they're like, oh, I'm just doing this, and I'm going to be grateful for the lessons. And I'm going to have those lessons. I'm going to apply them, and I'm going to keep going.
Oh, that's so great. So, Nikki, I'm going to give you the final word before we sign off. It's all you, babe. What would you like to say as we wrap up the podcast?
I would love for people to know that business, whether you are in it for your own company or you're doing it for someone else, is just a part of what you're doing to contribute to the world, but it doesn't have to be the only thing that you do. And so please carve out time to spend with those that matter most to you, and to also carve out time to spend with yourself. Like, I'm an introvert, so I naturally have to spend time with myself. Otherwise, you get a very different Nikki. But I've noticed my best friend's an extrovert, and until she went back to one of her hobbies, she wasn't taking time to spend with herself or for herself. And it has made her a better mom, a better VP or SVP at the agent she's at, and a better wife. And so, and a better friend. So take time for yourself, take time for your loved ones, and remember that work is not everything.
Okay, No Labels, No Limits podcast guest. I don't think you could say it any better than Nikki has said. So all of her information will be in the show notes. We always put it there. I would say check it out. If the accelerator sounds good to you, go for it. You can hear from Nikki how clear she is about the path, the process, but the rationale for it. And listen to her energy. She's the gal to help get you there. So thank you, Nikki. I have looked forward to this interview, and you did not disappoint in the least.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.